welcome to another episode here on the land of saints and sinners. Hey, it's been a while. We've been really busy, but we've been doing TikToks and shorts as well. So, you know, the stuff is out there. Check it out on all the social media platforms, on X as well. You'll find us on Saints and Sinners. And of course, you're on YouTube as well. Don't forget to subscribe as well. We really need to hit that 1,000 mark, or we really need it so we can get the message out there. Well, tonight we're going to be discussing what's going on this week in particular, because Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, don't like to call him that because I don't like him, but nevertheless, he has come out and talked about getting war ready and talked about spending billions and billions and billions of pounds of your money, because remember, it's not their money, it's our money, on defence, on getting ready for war. So I'd like to know what you think, but before we do that, tonight, let me introduce my guest. It is, I say guest, the co-host really. Well, they run the show. I'm just been dragged into this. This is the wonderful Clark. You all know Clark, and the wonderful Jojo. They all know. They all know who we are. Why do I do that on introduction? I know.
Yeah, but
my
some
apologies.
people it's the first time watching.
It is. And so we're going to talk about that. So the first question I'm going to ask Jojo, ladies first, to ask her what she thinks about the words that Keir Starmer is using in relation to Russian aggression and what the embassy's put out today.
They have basically said through a tweet that they have no interest in attacking England, which is really bizarre, is it not? Because we have Keir Starmer giving this war ready, yet Russia's telling us, mate, we have no desire to. I just feel like every time I see Keir Starmer and his really nasally voice, that he's just going to pull this mask off and there is going to be Tony Blair. He's horrible.
He is. Well, Clark, talking about Putin, you've been accused of being something, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been accused of being a Russian asset.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe because they saw me with a vodka and Coke once.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Bottle of Smirnoff coming out of the office. But no, I find it all really bizarre. And my take on it is that I think that they're using it as justification for putting up our taxes to justify the expenditure, but also, you know, we saw the three boys going off for a weekend to go see their mate in Ukraine. Didn't
the boys
we?
who didn't pay rent.
Yeah. So
See what I did there.
so
Why can't we say it?
all the jolly boys went for a rent-free holiday, and they started this aggressive talk about a European army and needing to defend us, and all of a sudden, a couple of weeks after that, we had that announcement where closer alignment with Europe, we're stronger together for defence and security, and now we see this posturing, don't we? I mean,
yeah.
And they did that thing, didn't they? Saying, oh, unless Putin agrees to our demands, we're going to put in extra sanctions on them. And Putin didn't accept their demands. And then they said, well, where's the sanctions? And it was like, well, we haven't thought about them yet. So there's been a lot of posturing by Europe. And I think it's justification that they're trying to make Russia to be the enemy. And it gives them the excuse to have the EU army and come away from NATO.
But don't you think though we need an army, don't we? Because ours been depleted under the Conservatives. Because if we do get attacked, right? If we do, we don't want war, right?
We could get attacked by the French. We need to defend ourselves.
Oh, we're going to talk about the French.
I'm half French.
Are you? Bonjour. Ça va, ça va.
Très bien.
Très bien. Excellent.
Zut alors.
So why is Keir Starmer so hooked on this kind of coming out Churchillian, like that? He's some kind of master kind of the universe kind of attitude about, you know, I'm war ready.
He's got an agenda. He has an agenda, and this is bigger than what we are seeing. So let's face it, Trump is actually trying to resolve war and absolve war. You know, we've got Russia now putting out a statement saying we just don't want it, but we've got Keir saying, right, come on, I want you to do this, you do it. It's like playground tactics. It's like bullying, and quite frankly, I'm a bit bored of him. You know, and ultimately there is a bigger agenda, and then it goes all the way up to the elites. So who is the puppet? So let's face it. Sorry, but Tony Blair was a puppet. Keir Starmer's a puppet. You know, and don't even get me started on Rachel now. Oh my gosh, Rachel and Keir.
Rachel
what
Reeves.
what a combo. They are fucking awful. So, I just think that the agenda is, he's a WEF puppet. I don't know how many times I have to say this. And what's happening is, he's being told what to do. We as the people are expected to literally sit there and just go, oh yeah, because it's fear mongering. And it's not just war mongering. And the posturing is to create fear within us so we become more compliant and then heavily reliant upon them. No.
Clark, I'll ask you this then. So do you think, though, that, Putin from the NATO perspective feels as if he was provoked into this? Now, when we say this, people think we're sympathisers.
No, we're not.
And we don't agree with war.
No.
But has he got, a reason to do what he's doing because of what he said years and years prior?
Yeah, I think it does go back to 2014. And there was, it goes back before then when Gorbachev and Reagan made an agreement. We're not sympathising with Russia. We want to avoid war at all costs. We all seen what's happening in places like Gaza and the Yemen with the bombing and the destruction. Why would we want that? Why would anyone want that? And in Ukraine as well. We're seeing what's happening in Ukraine. It's absolutely devastating. No one should be opting for that. And everyone should be doing their utmost to stay away from it. But the agreement was between Gorbachev and Reagan that NATO would not advance any further forward.
Was Gorbachev the guy with the map in his head?
Yeah.
Yes.
So and it brought about the biggest period of peace that we've had between the East and the West, and it brought about liberalisation of Russia. They became a little bit more free market economy, and we started buying the gas off of them, the oil off of them, resources off of them, and things like that. And that agreement was in place until 2014, when NATO started to encroach upon within Ukraine and the other Eastern European countries like Latvia and Estonia. They all started to take on NATO troops. And if you were Russia, you'd be like thinking, hang on a minute, we had an agreement here.
Yeah.
You're now coming up and you're now advancing onto us. In the same way as in the 60s, like before we were born, but we all learnt it in world history lessons at school, the Cuban Missile Crisis. When Russia had an alliance with Cuba, they put their missiles...
1 second. You must have gone to a good school, because I don't know nothing about this whatsoever. I went to Bringwing Comprehensive in Llanelli, so Clark, I am going to clue what that's about. But please enlighten me.
Well, in the 60s, when John F. Kennedy was president, Russia had an alliance with Cuba, and we all know how close Cuba is to America. And obviously, yeah, because it's so close to America, that the alliance was that Russia was going to put its nuclear weapons on bases in Cuba.
Right.
And it was as close to a nuclear war as we've ever come between Russia and America. And it took some very, very brave diplomacy. And the boats with the nuclear warheads were on their way from Russia to Cuba. And fortunately, common sense prevailed, agreement was put down, and Russia turned its boats back. And whilst there was still friction between Russia and America, Cold War, the threat of a nuclear base so close to America was taken away, and everyone was relieved. And we saw, didn't we, growing up, we had all those when the wind blows, what to do in a nuclear war. We've had periods of disharmony, and we've all been like prepared for nuclear war. There was nuclear war bunkers way back in the 80s and the 90s.
Should we be afraid, though? Should we be fearful of an impending war? Or is this just a case of Starmer trying to... We mentioned hiking taxes.
I think, right, I think there is that. Obviously, there's the taxes, and he's just kind of using anything to try and monopolise, like how he can sort of incur finances. But my point is, we should always be ready, always be ready. And going back to the question before, you said, should we be preparing our army? Well, I think it's important to have it, but the way that he's treating our army, they're all leaving. They don't want to be under it because it's an absolute farce.
It's because they don't want to serve the state. They don't want to serve this government.
They don't want to fight wars that they don't think are justified. I think that's the thing.
Absolutely, because look how much damage there is. When we went to see the veterans, just watching that man, just from one question saying,
heartbreaking.
Yeah, we just said, tell us how it was for you, and he couldn't speak. he was so traumatized. You know, PTSD. You know, the traumas and everything that they've incurred is just too much. And so, why would anybody want to go to war if we don't need to go to war? And why is Keir Starmer posturing to kind of aggravate when Russia is saying we're not going to do it? You're too little, you mind you barely got anything, you know, shut up, sit down. And then to Keir, like, oh my God.
Keir
is
Starmer.
there, in his really high-pitched voice, with his nasal.
He's the Timu Napoleon, isn't he?
Well, I think the Villa have got more fans than we've got in the army, Clark, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, Villa are massive, right? Villa are massive. So
we supposed to do.
We certainly have got far more supporters worldwide than we have in the British Army.
Blues have got more, but...
Never!
Let's not talk about Spurs, whatever you do.
But I have accumulated more points than Spurs.
Yeah, all right, okay, yeah, let's move on quickly.
But anyway, yeah, we digress. But I think the point is that when it comes to our army, we've been seriously depleted, and that's been for a number of years. So it's not just on this government; it's on previous governments as well. They've under-resourced it. There are more people leaving than they are recruiting, and the first bit of any government is to protect its people.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a dereliction of duty.
Yeah.
But one thing that was interesting from the announcement from the Strategic Defence Review was that in the manifesto they said they were going to spend 3% of GDP on defences. Well, they're still coming up way short of that. So it might be an increase in defence funding. How much of it is on the Chagos Islands and that crap deal they've got there, which is, what is it, 100 million quid, 35 billion quid,
Something we're already on.
100 billion quid? We don't know. It's like so many different numbers being going around. But they're saying they've increased the defence budget, but it's still not 3% of the of GDP. So if we are supposed to be war ready, like, there's no way that we're war ready given the resources that we've got in our.
I got a big question on that, right? So it takes about 10 years to build a submarine, right?
Yeah.
So if something happens like next month, next year, we're screwed. It takes 10 years to build one submarine. So, I mean, so is Starmer saying this so he gets a longer term in office? Because obviously 5 years is the term of Parliament. He's thinking, well, I'm going to need so many more terms as the Prime Minister to fulfil this promise of actually, you know, creating a strong defence and army, which is the first thing a Prime Minister should be interested in, is protecting his own citizens.
He's not protecting us, full stop. In every other area, there's like political gaslighting in every single area. And I cannot say this enough either. He is a political gaslighter.
I think the big thing about Starmer is you can't trust him. You cannot trust what he says. There is always another agenda. And going back to that spending review, the defence spending review, I mean, it shows the contempt in which they hold Parliament and they hold the British people, because Keir went out there and he stood in front of a room of hostages, didn't he?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they could watch this. I've just watched this photo. Look at the photo. Look at the faces of these people behind Keir Starmer. Check this out.
So he's stood in front of those hostages, and he's explained how much he's going to spend on defence, and he's made that announcement before he's made the announcement in Parliament. And Lindsay Hoyle absolutely rebuked the leader of the House and the government for making those announcements without having discussed it with Parliament first. It shows utter contempt for the British Parliament. But that indicates the contempt in which Starmer and Hermer and the rest of them in that cabinet hold the British Parliament, because they're not here to serve us, they're here to serve their own, and they're answerable to those from the WF and the New World Order.
Yeah.
So bringing this episode to a close, very quickly, Joe, your thoughts on Keir Starmer's kind of rhetoric around getting war ready? What's your final thoughts on that? What would you, if Keir Starmer spoke to you, let's say he was sat you on, well, actually you wouldn't sit here because I think he'd be afraid of you, to be quite honest with you. I would be as well. But what would you say to him, you know, about all the billions of pounds he's committing of taxpayers' money? Because the government forget, it's not their money. It's our money that they're spending on things that we've not voted for. We didn't vote for this.
No, of course we didn't.
What would you say?
Well, I would just be not even able to
You wouldn't
form a sentence
No,
because it would just be beep, 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 swear words, and I would just have to fuck off. The man is a loser. The man has no credibility. The man has literally like not won the hearts of the nation in any way, shape or form. He is lying and he is disruptive and he is actually creating more damage to us. So to be war ready, you know, it's just another excuse. You're just doing this as another excuse to either empower yourself to make you elevated to look like the good guy that you're going to keep us protected. We don't believe you and we don't trust you, so please sit down.
Clark, your final thoughts.
I'll tell him to fuck off. Just fuck off.
So,
Go! Walk out
you're welcome
Don't
anymore.
come back now. You're not welcome anymore.
That's the conclusion then. Starmer, you got the message loud and clear. Do one. And that's the polite way of saying fuck off. And that's good night from me, and it's good night from her, and it's good night from him.
Good night.
Catch
Good
you on
night.
another episode here on the Land of Saints and Sinners. Don't forget to subscribe.
Bye.
Ciao.